We meet today amidst a world in turmoil. Decades of progress on poverty and hunger are being reversed in large parts of the world. Inflation is undermining household and national budgets. Families and countries alike face financial crises. Women are underrepresented and underpaid. And I recognize the enormous effort that Nepal is doing in the way for gender equality, full gender equality, and I praise your efforts and its results. Violence and conflict abound. While the conflict in the Middle East is thousands of miles away, Nepalis were among the many victims of Hamas' brutal attacks in Israel. I send my sincere condolences to the families of the 10 Nepalese students who were killed and express my best wishes for the safe return of Mr. Bipin Joshi, who is missing. Distinguished parliamentarians, as geopolitical tensions rise, global divisions are becoming deeper and more dangerous. And smaller countries fear becoming collateral damage in competition between the great powers. And climate catastrophe is accelerating with a deadly force. In responding to this crisis, the world could learn much from Nepal. This country is a promoter of peace, a champion of multilateralism, and a staunch supporter of sustainable development and climate action. Nestled between two great powers, you have forged your own paths to safeguard your sovereignty and your independence. And your journey over the past 20 years has been wonderful to see. A new republic with a new constitution as the UN Charter at its heart. You were quick to embrace the Sustainable Development Goals and are making progress on many of them, independently of the difficult financial conditions that developing countries face in today's unfair world. Your country has successfully calmed the storms of conflict and moved from war to peace, a process the United Nations has been proud to support. Nepal does not stand still. Your dynamic story of progress continues today. Your graduation from least developed countries status is imminent, and the United Nations is committed to supporting a smooth transition. And you are preparing the final stages of our Nepalese-led peace process, healing the wounds of war through transitional justice. A process to bring peace to victims, families and communities haunted by questions and scared by injustice, and help put the past to rest. Transitional justice can play a vital role in securing lasting peace, but we all know it's not easy. By nature, it's a delicate and complex process. We know that transitional justice has the greatest chance of success when it is inclusive, comprehensive, and has victims at its heart. When it centers on truth, reparation, and justice, when women participate fully, and when all victims of human rights violations can find meaningful redress. And I welcome efforts here in Nepal to drive progress and find solutions in this regard. And I want to tell you are not alone. The United Nations, respecting the Nepalese leadership of this process, stands ready to support you with your victim-centered process and its implementation in line with international standards, your own Supreme Court's rulings. The United Nations and Nepal are old friends. Our cooperation runs deep. Nepal has long been a cherished member of the UN family and a powerful voice for developing countries, most recently as chair of the Least Developed Countries Group. And this relatively small country, compared with the big powers, has made an outsized contribution to international peace. Of all the countries on earth, Nepal is the second largest contributor of troops to United Nations missions, military and police. I'm sincerely grateful to the Nepali people for their dedication, their courage, and their service in peacekeeping. And I would like to take a moment and ask for one moment of silence to honor those Nepalese who have lost their lives serving under the blue flag.
उदाहरणको लागि 1 मिनेट साथ दिनेछौँ।
Their memory will never be forgotten, and the United Nations is proud of the exceptional contribution of Nepalese soldiers and police officers in our peacekeeping missions. Dear parliamentarian colleagues, on climate action, Nepal is a frontrunner. You are on target to reach net zero emissions by 2045. Thanks to extraordinary reforestation efforts, trees now cover almost half of the country. And you are one of the pioneers of the Early Warning Systems for All initiative, which aims to protect every person on Earth by 2027. Yet global crises are hitting Nepal hard, as they are developing countries around the world. What is happening in this country as a result of climate change is an appalling injustice and a searing indictment of the fossil fuel age. I am deeply concerned by those communities in Nepal facing the brutal impacts of the climate crisis. The United Nations stands with them. The world must do the same. That was one of the reasons why I took profit of my visit to the Everest base camp to issue a video for the whole world showing the drama of receding glaciers and the impacts that will have in the future. Nepal and other developing countries need far greater international support to aid development, accelerate climate action, and weather the current global storms. I have proposed a Sustainable Development Goals stimulus that would release at least $500 billion a year in affordable long-term finance for sustainable development and climate action in developing countries like Nepal. Member States welcomed the proposal at the General Assembly last month and committed to advance it. I call on them to take action now to make these commitments a reality. Unfortunately, in our world, many times people announce commitments and then do not implement those commitments. In the resilience of communities, in the resilience of infrastructure is today a must, because climate change impacts are not a problem of the future, they are felt today by the populations, and it is today that developed countries must support countries like Nepal to do the necessary investments in that regard. The most vulnerable must be at the center of efforts to build climate resilience. And all parties must operationalize the landmark Loss and Damage Fund at COP28 this year. There is loss and there is damage. You can see it in Nepal. There must be a compensation for it. The Nepalese people depend on it. For families that have lost their home to storms, for communities forced to abandon their villages by rising rivers, loss and damage is not a negotiating point or a bureaucratic abstraction, it is a lifeline. Dear parliamentarian colleagues, Nepal has long been a friend to the international system, and today their system is in dire need of refresh, revitalization and reform. The world is in a state of flux, it is moving towards multipolarity, and that is a good thing. A multipolar world provides new opportunities for leadership and balance on the global stage. And I hope the Summit of the Future will be an excellent chance to push progress. As a steadfast champion of multilateralism, peace, and developing countries' interests, Nepal will be a vital ally at the summit. Dear parliamentary colleagues, it has been my great pleasure to visit this extraordinary country over the past few days. What I've seen confirms a simple truth. Nepal is a friend of the world, so the world must be a better friend to Nepal. And the United Nations will never stop fighting to make that a reality, and I thank you.